In this video, I'm going to show you how to cite a commentary following the SBL Handbook of Style. Thankfully, commentaries are not that dissimilar from citing regular books, but there are a couple of other things that you need to be looking for. So we're going to use two examples, one a commentary on Ephesians and the other a commentary on Luke. Just to be clear, commentaries are a specific genre that we often use in biblical studies. A commentary is typically one volume dedicated to one single composition from the biblical canon. In this case, we have an entire book dedicated to the letter to the Ephesians, and then we'll also look at a commentary that is on the Gospel of Luke. And so in each of these books, they begin with an introduction that covers background material about the author and audience and purpose of these writings, and then commentaries will move into a verse-by-verse exposition of that entire book from the biblical canon. So that's what a commentary is, and again, they're published as volumes, as books, and typically are also published in series. And so that's really the trickiest part about citing a commentary, is making sure to find the series information when you make your citation. We're going to use the SBL Handbook as our guide, and we're going to look here in Chapter 6 in the SBL Handbook to find the paradigm that we need to follow to cite biblical commentaries. And this is way down here in the list of examples. If you look under Special Examples, 6.4, we'll see down here at 6.4.9, biblical commentary. So that's what we look for. So if we turn to section 6.4.9, we'll see the example that we need. I believe it's around right here. Okay, so there's 6.4.9. We have two examples here from Morna Hooker. The first one is what a footnote should look like, and of course the second one is what it should look like in a bibliography. So we'll start by making our bibliography entry, and then we'll show you what the footnote should look like. You'll notice that unlike other places in the SBL Handbook, it does not give you an example of what a short footnote should look like. That's because the editors are assuming that you can look back at earlier examples of how to use short footnotes for books and follow that same example. I wish that they would give you the three examples for each section, because of course we use this as a reference book. We don't read from beginning to end, but that's not how they've done it. But I'll show you here what a short footnote should look like if you're citing commentaries. So again, just to quickly go over things, you'll see here you have the author's name first, then we have the name of the volume, then we put the series information. So this is maybe the trickiest part of citing commentaries, is finding the name of the series, finding the abbreviation if there is one, and finding the volume number if there is one. And then we follow it with the publisher information. Place of publication first, then the name of the publisher and the year of publication. So again, much like regular books, but with the caveat that we need to look for the series name and make sure that we include that. One other thing to be aware of if you're looking at commentaries, and we'll switch over here to the example from Ephesians, is that they often will list editors. But the editor in a commentary is more of an acquisitions editor, the person who's responsible for finding the authors they're going to write the various volumes. They're not really editing the volume in a hands-on way like an editor might in another volume. And so we do not include the editors when we're citing commentaries. Again, you can see that laid out here in the paragraph at the beginning of 6.4.9, right? Noting that editors of commentary series usually acquire rather than edit, and therefore the names need not be included in the bibliographic or note references. So that's why we don't see that there. All right, let's use our example here from Morna Hooker as our paradigm and cite the commentary on Ephesians by Francis Folk. So we have here the cover of the book, and you'll notice the name of the volume, the author's name at the bottom, and then of course the name of the series at the top. We can find all this information as well on the title page, as well as, importantly, the volume number. So let's begin by entering the author's name. In the bibliography entry, we're going to do last name first. Then we're going to enter the name of the volume in italics. And in this case, we do have a subtitle that we can include. Okay, now remember, this is where the information for the series is going to go, right after the title. And the series is the Tyndale New Testament Commentary Series, and I can see here that it's Volume 10. What I need to figure out is, should I abbreviate Tyndale New Testament Commentary Series? So I'm going to go over to Chapter 8 in the SBL Handbook of Style, where I'm going to find in 8.4, Section 8.4, lists of secondary sources and how they should be abbreviated. The general rule for a paper in our course is to use the abbreviation provided in the SBL Handbook. If the SBL Handbook does not have an abbreviation, then just write out the title. So I need to check and see if there is an abbreviation for the Tyndale New Testament Commentary series. Again, I could look here in 8.4.1 and find it alphabetized by source. In this case, because I have an electronic version, I'm going to actually search for it and see if I can find it. And sure enough, there it is. All right, so I can see here Tyndale New Testament Commentaries, and I can see the abbreviation TNTC. So I'm going to come over here and use that. And then, as we talked about, it's volume 10. Now I need to come back and find the information on the publisher. In this case, it is IVP Academic or InterVarsity Press from Downers Grove, Illinois. I'm going to go back to chapter 6 and see if I can figure out what it should look like when I write down the publisher's information. And this is at the beginning. If I go back to the table of contents for chapter 6, you can see here that it gives me the sequence of information and talks about what it should look like in 6.1.4, what the publication information should look like. And specifically in 6.1.4.1, it gives us the names of the presses and what they should look like. So let me look up InterVarsity to see how we should cite this. In this section, it's going to list in alphabetical order the names of the significant publishers in biblical studies. It doesn't have them all, but it has most of them, and so I can check here and see. And so what it's telling me is that for InterVarsity from Downers Grove, this is how I should write the name of the press, okay? And this is how I should write the name of the place. Okay, so this is going to tell me if I need to include basically the state or not. In this case, it is telling me I should. So I'm going to put Downers Grove with the abbreviation for the state, and then I'm going to include the name of the press as it's there, and then I go back and find the date. I'm going to look for the copyright symbol, and I'm going to use the date that's included there, in this case 1989. Then let me set up my indent so this looks correct. Again, indent the second line 1/2 inch and the first line all the way to the left. And there we have our bibliography entry for a commentary. Again, if I want to come back and I want to use a footnote, I'm going to use the same information. So let me copy and paste here. But I am going to reorder things a little bit. So I've got a footnote already started. I'm going to add that down here. And then let me go over to the paradigm, just to remind myself of what it should look like in a biblical commentary. So author's name, comma, and a footnote, the title, italicized, comma, then I'm going to put the information for the series abbreviated with the volume number after the comma. Then I'm going to have in parentheses the information about the publisher followed by a page number. So let's do that here. I've got all the information, I just have to rearrange it so it looks correct for a footnote. So author's name, title. Again, I'm putting commas between things instead of periods. Then I add my page number. We'll imagine it comes from page 175, period. Okay, and that's what my bibliography or my footnote entry should look like for the first time I cite this source. If I was to cite this source again, let's add another one. Then I would use the short footnote, which is the author's name, a shortened title, and then the page number. And I'm going to change this over to the same font that I'm using in other places so it looks the same. Okay, so there's what a short footnote should look like. Okay, well, we're going to go through this process one more time just so we can feel comfortable with it using the commentary from John Carroll as an example. Okay, so here's the cover of a commentary on Luke from the New Testament Library, is the series in this case. There's the author's name. Again, I can scroll down and see the list of the editorial advisory board. I don't need to include their names. All right, this is the information that I need here. So let's start again. I'm going to include the author's name as it appears here. include the name of the commentary and italicized since it's a book, and now I need to include the information about the series. So the series name we can see here is the New Testament Library. We also saw that on the cover. I just need to check over in Chapter 8 of the SBL Handbook to see if there's an abbreviation for the New Testament Library. So let me search for that here. And I can find it there, sure enough. Looks like I'm going to abbreviate that NTL. Then I need to check and see, is there a volume number that I need to include with that? And there's not one listed on the cover. There's not one listed here on the title page. And I can check one more place just to make sure. Sometimes I can find it here in this information, the Library of Congress information on the front matter of the book. And even here it just says the New Testament Library, does not indicate a volume number. What we have happening here is a commentary series that does not number their volumes, and so I just don't need to include a volume number there. Then I need to include the information about the publisher. So we've got Westminster John Knox Press from Louisville, Kentucky. What should that look like? Let me search for it here in Chapter 6. See if I can find Westminster John Knox Press mentioned in the list of publishers. Yep, here it is. Westminster John Knox, Louisville. What that's telling me is that when I put the place of publication, I only need to put the city. I don't need to put the state because it's not included there. Here, and then for the name of the press, I'm going to use Westminster John Knox, and I'll drop the word pressed. Go back and find my date. Here, 2012. And now I have an entry from John Carroll. Of course, if I was arranging this as a bibliography, I would put that one first because alphabetically C comes before F. But that's what my bibliography would look like if I were citing these two sources. Okay, hopefully that helps show you what it would look like to cite a bibliography according to the SBL Handbook of Style.